Good evening, guys, and it's Phil. It's All Leeds TV, and as you can see tonight, I'm joined by Martin Riley and a really small little hand around my neck. That is obviously Martin's hand. He's touching me under the table. We'll explain more in a bit. We're here obviously to preview what promises to be a stressful game, I think, tomorrow. Leeds obviously away at Brighton Hove Albion. Martin, are you looking forward to playing a team that seem to really kind of have the number on us?
No, to be honest, it's not a team that I'm looking forward to facing. They really did do a good job of neutralising us last season. Potter seems to have a talent at finding the ways that teams build up and hurting them in that way. Last season, he really took it to us in the final third, especially in the wide areas, made it very difficult for us to build up. And yeah, I'm hoping that Bielsa has figured some things out and he's got something in store for us to break Potter's spell over us.
Yeah, so obviously, once again, sort of any Bielsa press conference brings little helpful anyway. And predicting a Leeds United lineup is always tricky at the best of times, but sum up in a nutshell what he said this week and how you sort of think that affects the lineup for tomorrow, because I could genuinely sit here and reel off like 10 different results of what he said, but I think the most likely one is the one that seems the least likely. Unchanged lineup.
It could be anything. I know we've got a lot more players who are fit and a lot more who are approaching being match ready, which is always a good thing. It was a more positive conference from Bielsa than we have had in the past few weeks, and so now we've got Rodrigo is available, Rafinha is available. I think Ayling is playing in the under-23s on Monday, so that's good. That will be him getting closer to getting back into the team because we have missed Luke Ayling. And also Shackleton is, I think, available, and so is Firpo. And since Firpo did play last week as well, I think he has got a good chance of maybe entering the lineup to replace Pascal Struijk, probably. Because as good as Pascal did do, he's not a natural left back, and we do need someone who's more natural in that position, I think, especially against Brighton, because they do press in wide areas. So hopefully Firpo can help us out there, because he is better than the left back we had last season in build-up in Alioski. We love Alioski, and we have said before that we have missed him, but one thing that he was susceptible to was being pressed. He did not like being pressed at all, and it made him make mistakes, give away silly corners, and we know. So fingers crossed for Firpo being in the team could be something which could help us. And yeah, the final member of the injured list is Robin Koch, who is in light training, I believe, alongside Patrick Bamford. So those two are also on the way back. So we're close to having a fully fit Leeds team, which hasn't happened in a very long time. So I expect at least one player to get injured this weekend.
I mean, the two that are most obvious that you haven't mentioned about potentially starting the game anyway, that I think Rafinha and Rodrigo, like, do you think, obviously, I know I said that the one thing that is the most unexpected, which will probably happen, is unchained lineup. But surely, like, if Rodrigo's fit, Gelhardt probably drops to the bench. And obviously, if Rafinha's fit, one of Harrison or James maybe drops to the bench. But obviously, we've seen that thing in the last few weeks where all three of them have played and Click's dropped to the bench. So do you think if fit, which apparently they are, do they both start?
Well, I would think Rafinha may come in. I'm not sure on Rodrigo if he will. It is possible. But if both those two do come back in, then obviously there will be a few more changes. And thank you, Gary, for that. I'm glad you enjoyed my tactical analysis. I hope I'm not positive on tomorrow's game, and it's going to cause us problems. But yeah, if anyone else hasn't listened to that, give it a watch. It's about 10 minutes long, and it gives you all the tactical information that you might need for this. I may cover some of it in this, but maybe not all of it. But yeah, Rafinha will probably come into the team. We were looking to play something like a 4-4-2 against Brighton's. What I expect they'll play is a 3-4-3, which will be what Spurs played last week. So they're going to have wing backs and they're going to have wingers. So that's why they press us in wide areas, because they get both of all their wide players forward, which funnels us and makes it difficult for us. So I don't know. It's hard to predict what Bielsa's going to decide. He seems to judge a lot on what he sees in training, and anything could happen. So it could be nearly an unchanged lineup. Maybe one player will come in. Maybe three new players will come into the side. Who knows? Yeah.
I mean, every week is hard to sort of try and second guess what Bielsa's going to do. Tactically, we know what he's going to do most times, but lineup wise, fucking so hard to predict. I think this week, because of how long certain people have been out and the amount of people that were injured last week and are potentially fit this week, it's just so hard to predict, to the extent where, like, an unchanged lineup seems the one thing that couldn't possibly happen. And usually when that's the case, that is exactly what happens. Gary, obviously, with your comment, we will do score predictions, but we do them at the end of the show, so you are going to have to keep watching, mate. But that's just to keep you in suspense. With regard to the starting lineup, I mean, we do it every week, so we may as well. Meslier in goal, yeah?
Yeah, Meslier in goal. Yeah, no doubt that.
You're saying back three because
I'm saying back 4-4-2. I'm thinking 4-4-2 is how we're going to play, which is I think what we actually did play. Now I've looked into the game last week. I know, but on the post-match show last week, we were unsure where certain players were playing. But after I've looked up a bit more, it would seem more like 4-4-2.
Llorente right back. That doesn't happen again this weekend, no?
No, I don't think it will. I can't see Llorente.
It wasn't bad, though.
No, it did okay. It did okay, yeah. But
for the first half.
Yeah, it sort of went to pieces a bit in the second half, but that's because Spurs changed things up a bit. But yeah, the at right back, I would probably guess that Dallas is going to be there. Are you thinking the same, or?
Well, it's not Ayling. We know that. It's probably not Jack. It's either Dallas or, like I've said with the unchanged lineup, or Llorente.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me again if the back four is exactly the same as last week. Genuinely wouldn't. I would like to think, like you said, Firpo, maybe not starting, but coming on, even though that substitution, I think, really didn't work last week.
Yeah.
I think if there is going to be a change in the back four, I think it's more likely to be Firpo for Strike than Llorente out and Dallas in. But I don't know. What do you think? It's a fucking mess, that defense right now. Because obviously you want to say Calvin in midfield, but probably going to play centre back. I don't know. I can't predict it. Should we just go now?
Well, yeah, we might as well. See ya. We're all done. We're over with already, because there's no point trying to guess.
It's a stressful thing to do, man.
Yeah, well, I think the reason why last week was so random with the way even playing Llorente at right back and playing Calvin at centre back was what he said in the press conference was he wanted certain people marking certain players, and he had nailed on Calvin Phillips to be the man who was marking Harry Kane, and it seems he made the correct choice there. But Brighton do not have a player like Harry Kane.
They don't even have a striker, do they, for tomorrow?
Well, is Maupay injured?
Yeah, Maupay's out in it, so it'll be Trossard potentially up front.
Yeah, it'll be Trossard. I think they have played two up front recently, but again against us, I'd expect they will play just the one up front, especially with Maupay's injury. So it'll be Trossard playing up front in kind of like a false nine, because he normally plays on the left or on the right, but they've been playing up front. I think that's done them well, because they've actually been matching their XG this season, which is quite a change up for Brighton last year, because they did not match their XG last year. They just couldn't score
last year, innit? It's kind of like we traded places, to be honest. Like, obviously, we were flying high and they were doing on us, but it swapped around. Anyway, so are you thinking the same back four, or are you thinking Dallas at right back, Firpo at left back?
I'm thinking it's going to be Dallas at right back and Firpo at left back.
So who's your centre halves then? Llorente and Cooper, or Calvin staying in there?
Llorente and Cooper will be my
Right.
choices. I would be perfectly fine if Strauch came in for Cooper, by the way. I love both Cooper and Strauch, and they both offer something different. But I do think Bielsa will go with seniority and pick
100%,
Cooper.
mate.
Yeah, that's what I think
Mate,
Bielsa will do.
we know by now if Liam Cooper is fit, regardless of what anybody thinks of Cooper and Struijk, that argument, Cooper starts.
Yeah.
He's always going to start. That's probably going to stay the same until at the very least the end of this season.
Yeah, I think it is quite possible that that is the lineup that we do see when we only play 2 centre backs. It is quite possible that we do just see Cooper and Llorente because those are the senior partnership, and Bielsa does seem to work in something of a meritocracy. So it's quite. He will pick the players who are most senior in general. Obviously, there are exceptions. And obviously, last week we saw that with Joffe playing over someone who would be considered a more senior player in Roberts. But we all know Roberts' problems.
I do think the pecking order's changed on that one now.
Yeah, I've got the same feeling that Joffe has supplanted Roberts with the. I think would he class as a third choice striker? Bamford.
Mate, I think even generally, if it came down to a toss of a coin between them in midfield, I think he'd still pick Joffe now.
Yeah, I think it's possible. He has played in the under-23s as an attacking mid, so I think that is quite possible too. But we do at the moment have actually quite a few central midfielders. Well, for us. Yeah, I've probably jinxed it there.
You literally just said in the space of 10 minutes, someone's going to get injured tomorrow. We've got a lot of midfielders.
Yeah, all of you. anyone watching us, I apologise if someone gets injured
Adam
tomorrow.
Forshaw in cotton wool, quick.
That's definitely going to happen, and I apologise if it does. But if we look onto the next part of the midfield, shall we look at the wingers next? Who we think is going to play on the right and left?
Well, I think the obvious thing to say is Rafinha. Even if he's fucking 10% fit, mate, just fucking start him. He's all right. Just start him. He'll be fine. He'll take an injection or something. It'll be fine. He starts, and then it's a toss-up, obviously, between the other two. I think we're more likely to see that kind of continuation of the experiment of all three of them playing, because I genuinely don't think Bielsa wants to pick between Harrison and Dan James. I genuinely think he'd rather drop Click than have to deal with that problem. Yeah. Or obviously one of them might need to go up front anyway. So Rodrigo and Rafinha up front, Harrison and James on the wings. Either way, I don't think Harrison or James get dropped just because Rodrigo and Rafinha are probably coming back in.
No, I agree. I think Click is the most likely one to get dropped from the midfield that we saw last week. Not that he did anything wrong, in my opinion. He had a great game. I've watched back some bits of what he's done, some what other channels have done, I've seen, and he did some great work, and something which he does well, which not many other players in central midfield for us do, is link up with the wide players and create little diagonals and move into different space and drag players over, and that's some of the things that he did well last week. But despite that, I do think that Click may be the one to get dropped this week, which brings us nicely to the central midfield.
I think we all know where this is going. I think this is now probably most people's favourite, really quickly actually, like favourite centre midfield partnership, but it sort of changes for me what we can do. I don't see. Obviously, we're talking Calvin Phillips and Adam Forshaw. I think that changes the dynamic of what our formation could be, because obviously it's always been the 3-3-1-3 or the 4-1-4-1, basically, but in different iterations. Whereas I think if you have those two on the pitch, especially if the other four players above them are the four players that we've just mentioned, so Rafinha and Rodrigo come back in and they play as like a front two, essentially. I know Rodrigo likes to come a bit deeper, but
he does,
with Harrison and James on the wings, you've essentially got like the 4-2-4 that everyone keeps saying, Man United should play that 4-2-4. Look at the players they've got, they should play that 4-2-4. We've actually kind of got that opening up for us now. Do you think the 4-4-2 could be a 4-2-4?
Well, I think essentially, I think it's probably going to look, in possession at least, I think it's going to probably look more like, if Rodrigo plays that, I think it's probably going to look more like a 4-1-4-1. I could see Rodrigo or even Joffe, because he does like to drop deep as well. Rodrigo or Joffe dropping back a little bit deeper, because both of them like to run with the ball, so that will help us to progress the ball. So in possession, it will look more like Bielsa's classic system. It's only really when Brighton will have the ball that it will look more like a 4-4-2 for me, because that's where the players will match up on the man marking system. So that's what I think anyway. I could be wrong, but we'll see tomorrow.
In all honesty, I'm only exploring the different options formation wise anyway, simply because I don't know what Brighton are going to put out. I don't know what team we're going to put out anyway. So, obviously Bielsa put a certain team out because he was expecting something in particular against Leicester. That had to change because it wasn't what he expected. But therefore, he now sort of, even with that game, he plans for every eventuality.
Yeah,
so
he does.
Whatever they put out kind of molds, obviously, what we're going to do. So I think he will have explored, at the very least, the idea of a 4-2-4. And obviously, I know it's something that is so far away from everything that we've done for such a long time. But I'd be surprised if he hasn't thought about it,
No,
especially
definitely not.
Just given the personnel.
Yeah, well, obviously the best players we've got, he does seem to like to have the best players on the pitch at all times. And well, at least I wouldn't have thought it before this season, to be honest. But this season, he seems to have changed the way that he's doing things. Because I wouldn't have expected to see Dan James starting up front as much as what he has.
No.
But I can see why he's done it, because Dan has got that pressing ability, which probably only Patrick Bamford has, and he has that little bit more pace than Bamford does too. But obviously, I would still prefer to see Bamford up front. There's no doubt about in my mind about that. That I would, if Bamford was fit, he'd be in. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, because Brighton are very, very flexible in the way they play. Their players can play in multiple positions. That's one of the things that Bielsa said in this press conference, that Brighton's players are very flexible and they have the capability to do it naturally, similar to what we do. We have a lot of players who can play in multiple positions, and so do they. Brighton have played about 5 or 6 different formations this season. They've played a 3-4-3, they've played a 3-5-2, they've played a 4-2-3-1, I think, once, and they've also played a 4-4-2. So Potter could change things up. He could play something different, but we'll see what happens. But I'm sure Bielsa will have something that he does for each eventuality of what Brighton would go
So
for.
taking formation out of the equation, what is it that you are, apart from the blatantly obvious of the fact they beat us twice last season, what is it you're most concerned about from Brighton? Because on paper, they started the season well and then dipped. And realistically, they don't have a centre forward where the hand's coming back up. They don't have a centre forward where I shit myself and go, oh, 20-goal a season striker. There's individually, like Bissouma, I'd say is a good player. I would have loved to have gone after him in the summer for that midfield position that we needed so badly.
But I agree.
Bissouma aside, and apart from the only thing I can think of from the games last season is the way they pressed us, and they obviously did it in like a 5-men sort of cornering in like a pentagon shape. The CDM, the single pivot. That was kind of what they did to us last season. So, not talking specifically on the formations, but like what part of their game or what players are you most concerned about that genuinely? I'm not going to like ruin the end for everybody. Like, I'm not going to tell them that the score predictions now, but I can sense that you're not overly confident we'll win this game, Martin.
Yeah, there's well, it's not in particular any one player. It's because Brighton are similar to us in that, at least the way we were when we first came up, it's more of a system than players that you look out for, because he's got them drilled very well. He is a good manager. Is Graham Potter. I know some people don't rate him, but I do. I think he's a good manager, and probably going to end up being the England manager in a few years' time. But he's
Southgate 2.0.
Yeah, exactly. He plays back three. Get him in. But some players, there is a couple of players who I am worried about, especially Tariq Lamptey. has got the capabilities which we hate, which is running with the ball, being fast. And
did he play against us last season, or did he
I
miss
don't think he did. He was injured for big parts of last season. I don't think we played him. He may have come off the bench for one of the games, but I'm not 100% sure.
But he is quality.
He's a dangerous player, and he'll be playing for their right wing back role. And so with his pace, and I'm not sure who they'll be playing ahead of him. I know they have a couple of choices to play on the flanks, but there is a couple of players who could be there who could also damage us.
Mate, it's the other side I'd be terrified of, because that's a player that me and Oscar spoke about every transfer chart. Just fucking get him. Get him. Cucurella. I love the name. I love the hair. I love everything about him. What? I mean, I know we've got Firpo, but both would have been nice.
Yeah, it would have. We did need more choices at left back, and yeah, Cucurella is a good player, and Brighton picked him up for a reasonable fee. I don't think it was too much, to be honest. I know we picked up Firpo for pretty cheap, but he has had his issues with not playing for a while. So yeah, who else? I kind of think to mark out. I know I picked one individual player as being their most creative. Who was it? I said in the video. Maybe I don't want to spoil it for you.
Were you not listening?
I've done a lot since recording that video, but I think it might have been Pascal Gross. Yes, probably. It was Pascal Gross. He's their most creative player. He has the most key passes per 90, the most expected assists per 90, and the most shot creating actions, I believe, per 90. So he's the player who we need to look at from a creative standpoint to try to press him. I know we press everyone, no matter who it is, but he's one who needs to be a bit more careful of. I'm not sure if anyone in the comments has anyone who they think we should watch out for at Brighton. I know the back line is good, and they've got a couple of very good long range passes in the back line as well.
Yeah, Shane Duffy's obviously back from Celtic, and him and Lewis Dunk have sort of reformed a partnership that went missing for a year because Ben White was there. And obviously, Dan Burn is one that we kind of have to point out just because he's fucking massive. And
he is a big lad.
Point him out. He's probably on the screen now. He's that fucking big. He's huge.
Yeah, and that's one thing.
Gelhardt going up for a header with him.
Yeah, that's not going to end well. We should
not. Knowing us, Gelhardt will be marking him for a fucking corner. I can tell you now. If Gelhardt's on the pitch, he's marking Dan Burn 100% all day.
Yeah, exactly. He's a very beast of a player, and not just that, he's actually capable of running with the ball. He's one of their best ball carriers from the back. I think it's because people don't expect a guy that big to start running at them with the ball.
He filled in for Lamptey a lot when Lamptey was out last season, didn't he?
Yeah,
he was at right wing back when they played us, I think, at least at Ellen Road. And just generally speaking, I remember that game most for Ben White just tearing us a new one by walking straight through the middle of the pitch for about 80 yards with no one challenging him. But Dan Burn did the same thing, just down a wing. Realistically, looking at their defenders, and it's something that we haven't touched on much this season at all, to be honest, but it was obviously a big talking point last season, our susceptibility at corners. That fucking went away quick because Sky have found something else to talk about. But, it'll creep back in. Now that we're against these lot, I don't think they scored from a set piece against us last season. From what I remember, like the Neil Maupay
I don't think so.
Really well created, but
but I don't think they did, which is surprising with the amount of threatening players have got aerially, and how bad we were last season with set pieces. Which this just seems to have sorted itself out. Just the set pieces. I think it's probably a combination of things. I think Melier has been a bit more keen to come off his line, and that helps out a lot on corners, obviously, because.
But you remember the amount of stick they gave us week in, week out for that last season. Suddenly turns around. You don't hear anyone saying, "Oh, they've done well to turn that around." No. Mate, hammered us for it last season. But fair play to Bielsa. He's genuinely managed to knock that one on the head. I think it will. So I think it'll come and go in phases depending on the teams we play. Well,
that's
there's always tomorrow, isn't there?
Yeah. Don't count it out. Brighton have been without a win for 8 games. In comes Leeds United. I hope that won't be the case. I'd be intrigued,
Brighton fan, if you're staying with us, can you sort of give us a score prediction from your side. Like, what do you expect from tomorrow? Do you think that, because we're all shitting ourselves, you beat us twice last season. No, I don't think any Leeds fan looks at tomorrow and goes, yeah, easy 3 points. I think people expect and hope to get a result, but nobody is going down to Brighton tomorrow. I think we took you for granted last season and just thought, yeah, 6 points, you're below us, everyone else is. We beat them, and then obviously we got dicked twice. And it wasn't the results. The results weren't too bad. It was the manner of the defeat and the performances both times. And people can blame the pitch and people can blame injuries, but end of the day, the performance was just fucking terrible. And we've had that once already this season with Southampton. That was a bad performance. I don't want to see a bad performance tomorrow, but at the same time, I think we need an extremely good one to come away with anything. And that's not being overly negative before I get hammered for saying that. Like, I want us to win as much as anyone, and I think we can win as much as anyone. But at the same time, I think it's an incredibly difficult game, more so than like an Everton. And Everton are further up the table half the time, but we seem to be able to get a result out of those kind of games. Brighton is just a game that we seem to find so hard. Like, I'd be intrigued for a Brighton fan perspective. What do you think they're thinking, Martin, before our friend replies?
Well, I think they should probably be pretty confident based on last season's results alone. But obviously, they have had a while without winning a game. Yeah. So, I mean, they haven't lost a whole lot in that time. They've had quite a lot of draws.
And they're still high up the table.
Yeah, they're still ninth, so they've managed to keep hold of that place because their early season form was very good. They had a lot of wins in the early part of the season, and that has kept them up the table. But so I'd imagine they will be reasonably confident that they're going to get something from us, because as much as our recent performances have been better, we still haven't quite got to that level, especially over 2 halves. Is that we can't always do it for both halves. I know that there has been reasons why, especially last week at Spurs, and Spurs do have a better quality side than us. And when they do suddenly start playing football, they can hurt teams. But we saw the other night against was it Mura? Things haven't gone well for Spurs since beating us, so they clearly put a lot of effort into that side. And there's Archie Timper back. Yeah, I was reading through that.
No, it's fair. I'd like to think it won't be 2-1, but no, I'm not gonna lie. It wouldn't surprise me if it was. Yeah, I'd like to think we've got more than enough, and I think if we put performances like we did for the first 45 minutes to an hour against Spurs, I think just quality wise, we've got enough to not end up losing the game. Yeah. Spurs, generally speaking, individual quality is obviously better than Brighton's, but I think at the moment the players' adaptations to the system will be better in Brighton's case than Spurs, just because of the news of Conte. But
exactly.
No, I generally do think it is going to be a very difficult game, and realistically, any kind of result we can bring away from it. I think the next 3 games are obviously very important. I'd take 7 points from all 3 games now. And I think to be able to go into the next 2 games with confidence of closing out 6 points, not losing tomorrow is massive.
Yeah,
I think not losing is huge.
If we can avoid losing, that would be great. It's an extra point on the board, which is never to be turned down, no matter how often you get it. Because Brighton have got a lot of draws recently, and they've still managed to keep up the table. So if it's good for them, why not us? But I would love to see a win, of course, but we do have to kind of be realistic as to the level of our performance this year and go into it with a bit of hesitance and not say, "Oh yeah, we're going to smash these lot. It's only Brighton." It's not only Brighton.
I do want to counteract a lot of the pessimism with a tiny bit of optimism. I know it's like clutching at straws as hard as I physically can, but when you look at the individual results versus specific teams. At the start of the season, I think me and you both did a little bit of it on the shows where we were like, oh, well, we bettered the result than we got last season marginally in certain games. And I think over the last few games, obviously, the Leicester game at home, better than getting Dick 4-1 at home. The Tottenham game away last week, we still lost 2-1. but we didn't lose 3-0.
Yep, exactly.
Maybe marginal little thing to cling on to. These results are slightly better than they were last season. So to say what was the score away at Brighton last season? I know it was 1-0 at Ellen Road.
2-0. It was 2-0.
2-0. So 1-1 tomorrow. I'd take it.
Yep.
I'd like 2-1 to Leeds, but
exactly.
if you offer me a 1-1 draw right now, probably bite your hand off for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in the same boat. It's especially one thing we've got to think about the performances so far. We're actually only 3 points worse off at this stage of the season than we were last season. So
is that after this many games, or considering the opponents we've played?
No, that's after this many games. I know it was in the article with Ayling, which was recently on The Athletic, which Phil hated, and it was said on there that we're only 3 points worse off. And Ayling pointed out in that interview that we've had a lot of disruptions this year. There's been more international breaks than there were last year.
Yeah.
So it's broke things up a lot more. We've been having like 2 to 3 games and then the international break, 2 to 3 games and the international break. We're a team who like to play often, and to improve performances, we need to have a lot of games, lots of training. And when players are away with international, we have got quite a lot of internationals now. It is going to affect the way we prepare for games. When you've got
a bit of a good run at it from now till March, and especially obviously festive period over December, it's more than like twice a week at different stages in it. So plenty of games.
Yeah, December will definitely make up for the lack of games. It's going to be definitely December.
I mean, I know we're here specifically to talk about Brighton, but I think we may as well talk about. I don't want to talk about December, but the 3 games before the ones that everyone is dreading. What do we think, Martin? Do you think? I'd say 7 points is what we need, and I'd say 7 points is realistic. I think anything less, and I know people don't want to hear the relegation battle thing, and I'm not just bringing it up to sort of like make everyone annoyed, but I think if we don't get more, I think 6 or 7 points out of these 3 games, especially considering the fixtures of the teams around us.
Yeah,
it's one of them where you can't really ignore the position we're in the table, the form that we're in. That's not me saying that we haven't got it in us to go and end up finishing 12th. I think we do, but I think these next 3 games are pivotal as to whether we are in a relegation battle or not.
Yeah, they're definitely pivotal games, and I would like at least 2 wins out of these next 3. Palace have been playing well, but I've been looking into the way they play, and I think it could suit us. I know they've got a very good player in Conor Gallagher, but we won't talk too much about that. But I think we could get something out of Palace. That they're in good form, and they might not be expecting us to do them over. Who knows? We did, I think last year against Palace, we won 1 and lost 1, so it's a bit better than against this weekend's fixtures. But 6 points out of the next 3 games is what I would target. And I've just realised that I don't think we actually finished doing the whole lineup. I think we miss out the strikers?
I think we did touch on it. I think we kind of. I got the feeling you were saying something along the lines of you expect Gelhardt still to start. I don't. I expect it to be Rafa Rodrigo as the front 2.
Yeah, I do expect if Rodrigo is fully fit, I would imagine he will play. But there is the chance that Joffrey will start. I think he did pretty well last week, but Bielsa will probably go with Rodrigo, I think, if he is fully fit. So yeah, just to close it out, just because I wasn't sure if we'd done it, I would say Rodrigo up front with Dan James, and then I think we said Harrison, and who did we say for the other wing if James and Rodrigo are up front?
Raf.
Yeah, Raf. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So yeah, sorry, I've had a long day. I've had a very long day. Yeah, so the next 3 games are definitely instrumental to, especially with the December that we've got coming up. It's not going to be a fun month, and there's lots of big games there. But it's a lot of games, and other teams have got lots of games. We are one of the fittest sides in the league. That could go well for us. We had the worst April last year, and that ended up being one of our best months of the season. So we can never be counted out of these big teams.
Absolutely.
I'm especially looking forward to. I'm actually looking forward to Man City. Despite how, I don't.
You're right.
You grasp that if you can. That I'm more looking forward to playing Man City than I am Brighton. I am probably insane. There's probably a screw loose somewhere up there. And
got unbeaten against City last season.
Exactly. And I think that especially, but I think Pep
overthinks everything when he plays Bielsa.
Especially any sort of coach who he looks up to, he just tends to overthink things. And we didn't get beat by him last season. No. That could change, but it's always going to be a good game of football, and that's more why I'm looking forward to it, because Man City take the game to us, we take the game to Man City. That's going to be one to look forward to later in December. But I think maybe we should get on to the score predictions, unless there's anything else you can think of that we haven't covered.
Yeah, there's one other thing I do want to touch on, but I'm not sure. I wasn't sure whether to do it before or after, but we'll do it now. Obviously, is it 10? I think it's 10 years.
Yeah,
the anniversary
I think so.
of the death of Gary Speed. Obviously, I'll invite everyone in the comments. Get your best memories of Gary Speed in either a Leeds shirt or any other shirt, Wales, Newcastle, Everton, Bolton, whatever shirt you saw him in. Get your memories in. We'll share them. But Martin, I know you weren't really a season ticket holder back in the day, but did you watch too much of Gary Speed in a Leeds shirt, or do you remember much of him for other teams?
I'll be honest. I don't. I never used to watch much football back then. That's probably bad of me to have not watched much of them. But
nobody's watched it since they were born. Don't worry.
But it's a player who it's obvious the memory that he's left behind. He's touched a lot of different football fans, not just us. Over in Newcastle and for Wales, he was a icon for us. He's just a great guy by all accounts, and it's just very sad the way things ended for him. And it's just something that all of us have got to be aware of. To speak out if you're not feeling great. Reach out to a mate. Do whatever you can. It's okay not to be okay. It really is. We've all suffered. I'm sure everyone in the comments will have the times in life where they felt low, and you'd need to try to talk to someone if you can. Or even the other people, reach out to your mates who you think might not be doing that well. Just send them a message, send a meme to them. Just do anything to try to reach out to them if you think there's something going wrong. But let's get some of these memories of Speed. One there for not right there, but that was great seeing Coops and Sudi out in front of Brendan statue, remembering Speed. That's great.
Obviously, like just simply based on age, I think we're both probably. I'm not giving away our ages. He is older than me, just in case you wouldn't. We're both too young to have seen him play, I think, in a Leeds shirt. I have seen him play for other teams against Leeds, but I think in general that the things that stay behind are, first of all, the managerial career with Wales and what he did for Wales. Basically, they were a fuck all nothing team on the international scene. They had Ryan Giggs as their only player for a very long time who did nothing. They never got to a World Cup, I think, from 1958 or something onwards. It was like 50 years between the Euros or something daft. And he managed to transform a national team, not based on talent, but based on a togetherness. And we're I wouldn't say I'm an England fan, but we're English. We don't take too much time out of our daily routine to give credit to Scotland, Wales, or Northern Ireland, or the Republic of Ireland. We don't. But he made people sit up and notice Wales. And then obviously, as much as you've already said, most of the things I'd say need saying. When it comes to what happened and how unfortunately he left us, that shook the football world. And it shook the football world because he was a man that was known for smiling. He was a man that was known for being a gentleman and being polite and happy. And we never saw the suffering that was obviously going on inside. And we've heard a lot from the people that knew him most, in like Alan Shearer, people that he's played with, worked with. on everything that's gone on since. And it was great actually to hear on Phil Hayes' show a week or two ago with Hayden that obviously he was Speedo's agent, and just sort of the learning that he's had to do since that time, because he made a statement as Speedo's agent afterwards saying he didn't think he was depressed. And obviously I think as much as the footballing world needs more people like Gary Speed still in it, but what happened has brought mental health to the forefront, and now it is spoken about. And as much as you never want someone to go for it to be brought into the limelight, thankfully, like, because of Gary Speed, people will talk in football now, and maybe that won't have to happen to somebody else. But as football fans, that's where you take on the responsibility on yourself to bear these people's feelings in mind when you are chanting certain things. I don't remember anyone chanting anything at Gary Speed, I must admit, but whatever it is that footballers have to cope with in their lives, if we can support them and build them up, that's the way that we do our job for them. But the main obviously memories that everyone in the comments is sending in is the 92 championship winning squad, and obviously that midfield of McAllister, Strachan, Speed, and Batty. And again, I was born in 92, so I didn't see it there and then. I've seen videos and I know what they did. I've taken selfies in front of the Lowfields Road tunnel where they are, but we were incredibly blessed to have had those players, and incredibly blessed to have a man like Gary Speed associated with our club.
Yeah, I'm incredibly honoured. I'm so glad to remember him, and that even though it's very sad the way he passed, it's helping people to speak out about their own problems, I feel, and that is one positive. I know it's hard to speak of positive about someone dying in the way he did, but it is a positive that we can take from it, is that people are more willing to talk about their mental health problems, and that's great. Just to run off some of the stats on Gary Speed, he played 248 games for us and scored 39 goals. He went on to go to Everton after us, and he played for them 58 appearances and scored 16 goals for them. After that, he went to Newcastle and had 213 appearances for them with 29 goals. Then to Bolton Wanderers, playing 121 games and 14 goals. And finally, he ended up at Sheffield United with 37 appearances and 6 goals.
Honestly, for a long time, I know not anymore, but for a long time, he held the record for most Premier League appearances. That was obviously before, I think Giggs took it over from him, and then Gareth Barry's since gone on and broken that. But just look at the sheer amount of number of games that he's played in the Premier League. Bearing in mind, like, he was playing he started his playing career before the Premier League even began, mate. Like,
exactly.
Played over 500 Premier League games, and to stay at such a high level for such a long time, and then obviously after playing, go into coaching, and not just, we've seen players go into coaching. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer springs to mind, good example, and just be there. Frank Lampard is a much better example. Goes into coaching because of the name that is attached to him, when actually he's got fuck all about him in terms of knowing what he's doing. But Gary Speed genuinely went into coaching and achieved something, probably achieved more, I'd argue, in such a short space of time as a coach than he did for probably the back end of his football playing career.
Exactly.
I think he would have succeeded in anything he did. And I think as a manager, it would have been really interesting to see where he would have been if he was still around right now. And no doubt the clubs that he had such a close affinity to, I would have been confident that he would have gone on to manage a team like us, probably end up back at Newcastle as well. He had a great affinity and a great relationship with the players and the staff and the fans of the clubs that he was involved with.
Mm-hmm. It's incredible, and if he was alive today, he would have only been in his 50s. That's how young he passed. He was only 42, such a young age, and someone who, it's such a shame. It's a great loss to the footballing world, and I'm sure, of course, to his own family, and we pay our respects to them. I hope they're all feeling okay and celebrating his memory yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've spoken about it, and we're not going to kill the point, but we're always here. I know we're probably not the first people you think of, but if you ever need anything, our messages are open. We'll move on anyway to we'll finish off by saying hopefully there'll be a minute's silence or an applause or something for him tomorrow at the game. But
Yeah.
Martin, let's move on and just sort of round up with your prediction if we haven't already kind of given it away anyway.
Yeah. I would probably guess 1-1 is what I'm going to go for. I'm hoping that will be the result.
Is that hoping or believing?
Well, it's kind of a mixture of both. Well, I would like 3 points, obviously, but I don't want to predict a loss, and that is why I'm saying 1-1. I think it could be different, but we'll see what happens tomorrow. I never write off this side against anyone. They are capable of just suddenly turning around and smashing the team, which is something we haven't had for a while. So who knows? It could be a 4-0 tomorrow. So we never know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I'm ever the optimist, but I don't really see 4-0 happening. I really hope now that I've said that and I can get clipped up that I'm wrong, and that someone comes on here and just rubs it in my face on Sunday on the player ratings. But I normally don't go with the same as you, and normally if I say a score first, even if it's the same as what you're thinking, you'd go elsewhere. But I am going to say the same as you. I can't see us scoring more than once. I don't think we scored against them in either game last season.
No, we didn't.
I don't see us keeping a clean sheet because we just generally don't seem to be able to so far this season, apart from obviously the Watford game, and they were fucking awful. Yeah. I'd say 1-1, and as usual, until Patrick Bamford's back, I'm probably going to spout the same bullshit every week. Rafinha is the only way we're scoring a goal. I think he's the only thing we've got when it comes to scoring goals. I'm glad to see creativity-wise some things sparking into life a bit better with Harrison and James. But was that 4-0 to us or 4-0 to Brighton?
No, I think Gary was positive until he listened to my tactical breakdown, and I've brought Gary down. Now I feel bad. I'm sorry, Gary, that I've ruined
lesson
you.
Learned. Don't fucking listen to us.
We're just people. We know fuck all.
Yeah, we don't. I'd say 1-1. Is there any other interesting ones in the comments? Anyone else going anywhere? 2-0. Mate, I think the general gist is if there's 3 points on offer, take it. But obviously, if there's a point, I think that the 2 games after that are most important, that we genuinely need to win.
Definitely.
Because of that, we can't avoid defeat at all costs tomorrow, basically. And if we do lose tomorrow, fuck me, I can't be arsed with the player ratings already on Sunday.
Yeah, it's not going to be a very positive player ratings on Sunday. So make sure you tune into that.
Yeah, mate.
If we win, you might not want to be there if we lose.
I'm desperately hoping that we have some sort of like jovial night ahead of us on the Sunday, but we'll wait and see, won't we?
I'll leave it on a slight positive. The only thing that I've got is that Brighton don't score that many goals. They are quite low in the table for expected goals, so they don't create that many chances. But they are quite high at the other end of the table for keeping out expected goals. I think the 5th in the table for expected goals. So if we can take our game to them and get a goal, if we can nick the first goal, I think it might end up being a bit different because Brighton may have to change up the game plan if we score first. So that's a big thing for me, is scoring the first goal tomorrow. That's what I want. That's what I want, to come out of the blocks firing, take them by surprise, get Rafinha a wonder goal from 30 yards, and then we can just hit them on the counter attack when they try to attack us. Yeah, Joffy,
take that.
Yeah, definitely take. I would take it if we had a last minute goal scored by Liam Cooper's bum. I'd take it any way, shape, or form. A victory tomorrow. So yeah, fingers crossed. But you've got our predictions, and thanks again, Arctic Temper, for joining us. It's always great to have
it's always
opposition.
nice to have an opposition fan on and not be abused for the best part of 50 minutes. So cheers. Do appreciate that. Everyone, if you're going to the game tomorrow, safe journey down. I hope you enjoy the game, and obviously, fingers crossed, we pick up a good result. Obviously, feel free to, if you haven't already, smash the like, subscribe to the channel. I'm sure you all already have. And obviously, I think the links below may have gone, but if they're still there, donate to the Leeds United Foundation. And obviously, keep an eye out over the weekend for more lovely content around this Brighton game. Fingers crossed for a good result. And thank you, as always, for joining me, Martin. And thank you, everyone, for sticking with us. I hope we get 3 wins. Sorry. Well, yeah, 3 wins in 3, actually. That'd be nice.
Perfect, yeah.
Baby brain. Right, we're off.
Bye, guys.